Hey friends, what's cooking? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Gimel, Daf 43 of Masechta Sukkah. Friends, what do you want me to tell you about Daf 43? So we focus on two things. Yesterday, at the end of the Daf, we learned about the Mishnah of Lulav va'arava, the Mishnah at the beginning of the fourth parak. Lulav va'arava shisha v'shiva, right? We said that Lulav and Arave is sometimes 6 times, sometimes 7 times. So we are going to basically explain what's the deal with the lulav being sometimes 6 times, sometimes 7 times in the Beis Hamikdash, and the same thing about the arava. We're going to learn about that, and we're going to learn about something that's called the Gezerah de Rabbah. It is somewhat famous, I'd say, as far as famous Gemaras go. And as the Gemara itself is going to point out, that this is the same reason why we do not take the shofar, why we would not blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, and also why we don't read the Megillah on Purim on Shabbos. So, very interesting stuff. So let's get started over here. Daf Mem Beis Amud Beis at the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom. Amai tiltu ba'amahu v'lidchei Shabbos. Ha ha. Friends, what's the Gemara asking? What the Gemara is asking is that in the Beis Hamikdash, there's a mitzvah deoraisa to shake the lulav, to take the dal minim, all 7 days of Sukkot. So if that's the case, if there's a mitzvah all 7 days of Sukkot to take the dal minim in the Beis Hamikdash, so why isn't it Docha Shabbos? Kidu, how come we're saying that if the first day of Sukkot is on Shabbos, so then you take the lulav all 7 days in the Beis Hamikdash. But if the first day of Sukkot is a Tuesday, and Shabbos is in the middle of Chol HaMoed, so you're not going to take the lulav on Shabbos in the Beis Hamikdash. Why not? Why not? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa. What's the problem? Maybe you're taking the muksa. Maybe it's a mitzvah d'oraisa here. What's the problem? What are you concerned about? Muksa. Tiltu ba'amalu v'litchei Shabbos. Let it be docha Shabbos. What are you concerned about? It's a mitzvah d'oraisa over here. Omer Rabba. Says Rabba Gzeira Shem Yitlenu B'Yadav Yelech Etzel Baki Lomod V'Yavrenu Arba Amos B'Shus Harabim V'Anu Taima de Shofar V'Anu Taima de Megillah. Ooh, wah! That is Gzeira de Rabba. Says Rabba Gzeira that we're concerned Shem Yitlenu B'Yadav that maybe he's gonna take his lulav V'Yelech Etzel Baki Lomod. And he's not going to know how to make the bracha, how to shake. It's complicated shaking. In Nusach Ashkenaz, in Nusach Sfard, front, back, right, left, up, down, a lot of complicated stuff. So you might take your lulav and take it to Rishus Harabim to go to somebody to learn how to do it. V'yavrenu arba amas b'Rishus Harabim. You might then carry it 4 amas in Rishus Harabim. So out of that concern, we say, don't take the lulav on Shabbos, even in the Beis Hamikdash, because we're concerned that you might end up carrying Dalet Amos B'Rishus Harabim. B'Hainu Time of the Shofar, that's the same reason why we don't blow shofar when Rosh Hashanah is on Shabbos. B'Hainu Time of the Megillah, that's also why we don't read the Megillah on Shabbos, because you might end up going to an expert to learn how to do these things, and you'll carry Dalet 4 Amos in Rishus Harabim. Ihochi Yom Rishon Nami, ho-ho! Ha ha! I bet everybody was thinking this. Then why are you allowed to take the lulav on the first day? Right? When the first day of Sukkot is Shabbos, we said you are allowed to take the lulav in the Beis Hamikdash. Well, aren't you concerned about the same thing, that you're going to carry it to Dalet Amos from Rishus Harabim to go to figure out how to shake it? Where am I? Yihachi Yom Rishon Nami Rishon Hatakinu Le Rabbanon Biveso. So, but the Gemara says, well, technically speaking, if you look at the end, if you remember the end of the Mishnah that we said yesterday, that because of all the fighting that was happening and people were getting hurt when they were, trying to get their lulav from the roof, so that was being thrown off of the roof. So the rabbi said, you know what? Everyone just shake your lulav at home. And because you're shaking your lulav at home, it's enough of a hecker. It's enough of a reminder of like, hey, why are we shaking lulav at home and not in the Beis Hamikdash? Oh yeah, it's because it's Yom Tov and it's Shabbos, and you're not going to end up carrying it anywhere in order to learn. Right? And because you're only allowed to, do it specifically in your house, you're going to remember, right, only in your house is allowed. You're not allowed to take it anywhere else. Fine. But this answer is only a good answer now that we have this takana. Right? Now that we have, meaning because people were getting hurt, the rabbi said, so take it at home. And once memele, you're taking it at home, so you'll remember not to take it out. But what about before that takana? What about when there was still the big, big lulav, pass the salami, steal the lulav, jump in chaparain thing? Shouldn't you have been concerned then that you're going to end up going to an expert? Why are you allowed on the first day? Well, day one is midoraisa everywhere. In the Beis HaMikdash, day one, lulav is midoraisa. Outside of the Beis HaMikdash, day one, lulav is midoraisa. Hanoch, but days 2 through 7, the last numin Torah begvulin, where outside of the Beis HaMikdash, there's no mitzvah d'oraisa to take the lulav days 2 through 7. Only in the Beis HaMikdash, there's that mitzvah d'oraisa. So gazbu rabbanon. So on days 2 through 7, the rabbi said, don't take the lulav on Shabbos, because we're concerned, the Gzeira d'Rabba, we're concerned that you might end up taking it out to Rosh Hashanah to learn from an expert. So that's days 2 through 7. But on day 1, where everywhere there's a chiyuv midoraisa, there's a mitzvah d'oraisa to take lulav. So there they said that we're not concerned. Right there they did not make their gzeira, and they said that you're allowed to take the lulav on Shabbos. If that's the case, ha'idno nami. So why don't we say the same thing nowadays? That nowadays that we take the lulav zecher lemikdash. So why don't we say, well, no, days 2 to 7 zecher lemikdash, but it's still right. On day 1, it's midoraisa. So why don't we say that nowadays as well? That on day 1 you should take, right, when the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, you should take the lulav on Shabbos. So anan leadinon bekivua deyarcha. So the Gemara answers, well, you're right, but technically speaking, right, right, there's the Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golios, the Sveka Dioma, right? They weren't sure. They said, look, Lamaisa, we don't have the messenger is going to the Bezdin, and Bezdin saying Mekudesh, and Kielu, we don't have a fixed calendar. We can't say for sure. That's why we have 2 days Yom Tov, because we can't say for sure which day is which. So we don't really know for sure that the first day of Sukkot is actually the first day of Sukkot. And for that reason, we can't, we don't take the lulav when the first day of Sukkot is on Shabbos. Inu diade bekivua diyarcha lidchu. But what about in Eretz Yisrael, where they do know about, where they're still being mekadesh the chodesh ayidei re'iyah, and they do therefore know, right, that they make Rosh Chodesh based on seeing the moon. So they do then know when exactly the first day of Sukkot is. So if that's the case, then they should be able to take the lulav on the first day of Sukkot. Because the first day of Sukkot is a mitzvah d'oraisa everywhere to take lulav. In Achinami. The Gemara says, yeah, you're 100% right. In Eretz Yisrael, they would take the lulav on the first day, when the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos. The Tanan, as we learn, right, the Tanan Chada, we had one Mishnah that says, that our Mishnah, at the beginning of our parak, on Daf Mem Beis says, B'Yom Tov Harishon Shchalios B'Shabbos, that when the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, Kol Amo Lichnes Lovein L'Har Bayis, everybody would take their lulav to Har Bayis. Okay. V'Tanan Idach, and we have another Mishnah at the end of the previous parak, the Beis HaKnesses. It says that everybody would bring their lulav to the synagogue before Shabbos. So Shmamina Kam B'Zman Shebeis Mikdash Chayim. So we see that our Mishnah, which talks about everybody bringing their lulav to the Har Bayis, to the Beis HaMikdash, so that's when there was a Beis HaMikdash. Kam B'Zman She'ein Beis Mikdash Chayim. And the earlier Mishnah, which talks about everybody bringing their lulav to the synagogue, so that was when there was no longer a Beis HaMikdash. So we see that even Shmamina, so we see that even nowadays, even when there's no Beis HaMikdash in Eretz Yisrael, they would still shake the lulav on the first day of Sukkot when it's on Shabbos. The Isim and Torah begvul minolan. Now, how do we know that on the first day of Sukkot, taking the lulav is mida oraisa, even outside of the Beis Hamikdash, on the first day of Sukkot. The Tanya is willing to buy lekachtem, that you take, shetei lekicha biyad kol echad ve'echad, that everybody's got a chapa lulav. Lochem, mishelachem, it's got to be yours. Lo tzis hashal v'sagazel. You're not allowed to use a borrowed lulav. You're not allowed to use a stolen lulav. Bayom v'afilu b'Shabbos. On the day, even if that day is Shabbos, Rishon, afilu b'gvulin. When it says Rishon, it's not the differentiating, it's whether you're in the Beis Hamikdash, whether you're outside the Beis Hamikdash. Harishon melamed shenadocha el yom tov Rishon bavad. And Harishon means that we're specifically talking about the first day of Sukkot. The first day of Sukkot, even if it's Shabbos, you still take the Dalid Minim. When it is, if it's the first day, so you take the Dalid Minim even if it is Shabbos. Fine. Okay, fine, very good. Amar Mar, so we had just said, Bayom v'afilu b'Shabbos. We said that when the first day of Sukkot, even if it's Shabbos, so you take the Daled Minim. Michdei, 1 second. Tiltul ba'amu, itztich krala mishrei tiltul. 1 second, what could possibly be the issue with shaking the lulav on Shabbos? Maybe it's muksa? Muksa is a din d'Rabbanan, that came much later. You don't need the Torah, right? The Torah surely wouldn't be teaching us to say that a din d'Rabbanan is mutter on Shabbos. Why would the Torah need to go out of our way to say that you can even take the lulav on Shabbos? Why, if we're saying that it's a mitzvah d'oraisa to take the lulav on the first day of Sukkot, so then, okay, so if the first day of Sukkot is Shabbos, so I'll take the lulav. What's the problem? What does the Torah need to permit? So Amarava lo nitzcha l'machshirei lulav. Okay, so it's needed for machshirei lulav, for like meta things around the lulav. Right, as Rashi says, for example, right, even the kotzotzo min ha'mechubar le'ogdo, even if you need to like cut the lulav off the tree, that's okay. Even if you have to do that, that's okay. Right, even the machshirei mitzvah, even the things around the lulav, right, such as cutting it from the tree would be allowed as well. That's what the pasuk is saying. Valiba ta'itana, and according to the teacher, the Tanya, as we learn in the Brisa, lulav v'chol machshir v'dochenes haShabbos de Rabbi Eliezer. Of course, we know that Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. We know that from Rabbi Eliezer de Mila in Masechta Shabbos, right? That Rabbi Eliezer says that even machshirei mila are docha Shabbos. So when it comes to bris mila, even if you need to make a knife or whatever it is, it could be docha Shabbos. So we see that Rabbi Eliezer's opinion in general is that machshirei mitzvah are docha Shabbos. So here also he'll say, and what the pasuk is saying is bayom, even if it's Shabbos, that even if you have to cut the lulav from the tree, it's still going to be docha Shabbos. My time with Rabbi Eliezer. How come Rabbi Eliezer says that you can even cut the tree from the lulav from the tree on Shabbos? So Amakra bayom v'afilu b'Shabbos says on the day, even on Shabbos. V'Rabbanon hai bayom my avdile. What do the rabbis do with the word bayom? Mibayle bayom v'lo balayla. They say, yeah, what it means is that you take the lulav during the day, you don't take the lulav at night. Rabbi Eliezer bayom v'lo balayla minole. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that the mitzvah of lulav is during the day and not at night? Nafkali miseifer dikra. He learns it out by saying, look, if you continue reading the pasuk, it says, "Usmachtem b'fnei Hashem Elokechem shivas yom." That you will then, right? You'll take ulkachtem lochem bayom harishon, etc., etc., etc. Usmachtem b'fnei Hashem Elokechem shivas yom, and then you'll be happy before God for 7 days. Yomim v'lo leilos, for 7 days, not for 7 nights. V'abonin imei, and the rabbis say, oh, from there. Havamina leilev yom yom misukah. If we learned out from there, I would say, oh, it says shivas yomim, but it also says basugos teishvu shivas yomim, to sit in the sukkah for 7 days. Malholin yom vafilu leilos afkan nami yom vafilu leilos. Therefore, I may have thought to say, well, it says yomim by lulav and it says yom by sukkah, just like sukkah is day and night. I may have had the havamina to say that lulav is also day and night. Therefore, the chacham say we have to learn out from bayom that it's bayom v'lo balayla. Whereas Rabbi Eliezer is happy to learn out days and not night from Usmachtem L'fnei Hashem Elokechem Shivas Yom, but everybody agrees that lulav is going to be during the day and not at night. V'sukkah gufu minolin. How do I know that sukkah is day and night? T'tanu Rabbanan, as the rabbis taught, Basuk is teishvu Shivas Yomim, that you will sit in sukkahs for 7 days. Yom vafilu leilos, days as well as nights. Wait, I don't know. Maybe it means days and nights. Vidinu. So I say no. It makes sense to say that it's day and not night. Nemar kan yomim, v'nemar blulav yomim. Wait, whoa, 1 second. When it comes to sukkah, sukkahs are during the day and during the night. Okay. Now, we're asking, but maybe it only means during the day and not at night. And I can even make the argument to say that it means during the day and not at night, because it says yomim by sukkah, and it says yomim by lulav. Malhalon yomim v'lo leilos, afkan yomim v'lo leilos. That just like by lulav, we established, we just said a minute ago that lulav is during the day, you don't take lulav at night. So also, maybe I'll argue that sukkah also it says yomim, and it means during the day, not during the night. Or maybe we'll say, which is nemar kan yomim, it says over here yomim by sukkah, v'nemar b'miluim yomim. It also says by the 7 days of the miluim, right? Those 7 days leading up to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, when Moshe Rabbeinu was serving as the priest in the Mishkan at the inauguration before, right? When they were right up to the inauguration of the Mishkan. So it says there yomim, days. Malahalon yomim v'afilu leilos. Just like it says over there, yomim, and it includes the nights, right? That everybody who was participating in the miluim, they had to be in the mishkan for days and nights. So afkan yomim v'afilu leilos. So here also the sukkah is days and nights. So near the midome. So now we have to figure this out. We just gave 2 suggestions. Do we compare sukkah to lulav to say that it's during the day, not during the night, or do we compare sukkah to miluim and say it's during the day and the night? So now we have to figure this out. So near the midome. So let's see, which one is it more similar to? So do we say that we'll learn out sukkah, which, is all day, from miluim, which is all day. You got to be there all day. Don't learn out sukkah from lulav, which you shake the lulav and you're done. We even said earlier, yesterday's daf, we said that technically once you pick up the lulav, you already yotzei the mitzvah. So therefore we should learn out sukkah from miluim, because both of those are all day. Don't learn out sukkah from lulav, which is, just for pretty quick. Or let's say, let's learn out sukkah, which is mitzvahs for all generations. We still sit in sukkahs, right? So let's learn out sukkah from lulav, which is also for all generations. We still take lulavs. Don't learn out from miluim, from the 7 days of miluim, which was only a one-time event. Therefore we have Gzeir Shava. It says Teshvu, let's see. Nemar kan Teshvu, it says Basukas Teshvu Shivas Yomim, v'nemar b'miluim Teshvu. And it also says by the miluim Teshvu. Malolon Yomim v'afilu leilis, avkad Yomim v'afilu leilis. So just like by the miluim, it was days and nights. So also by Sukkah, the mitzvah is during the day as well as during the night. Arav Shiva Ketzad. So the Mishnah had said that, so in what situation would you take the Arave for all 7 days, right? And we're going to learn more about the Arave on Daf Mem Hey, about what exactly the mitzvah of the Arave was. But this mitzvah, if the last day of Sukkot was on Shabbos, so then you would take the Arava for all 7 days. If the last day of Sukkot was any other day, so then that means that Memele Shabbos was in the middle of Sukkot, or some other day of Sukkot, and then you would not take the Arava on Shabbos. Okay, so Arava b'Shvi, my time adachi Shabbos. So how come when the last day of Sukkot is on Shabbos, how come the Arava is docha Shabbos? So Rabbi Yochanan kidei lefaris m'shim Torah. So Rabbi Yochanan says, in order to make it clear that the mitzvah of Arava is midoraisa, because it doesn't say explicitly in the Torah the mitzvah of Arava, so therefore we want to make it clear that nonetheless it is a mitzvah d'oraisa. So we say that if that if what am I talking about? Right. So that if the last day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so we take so then the Arava is docha Shabbos to point out that you see, it must be that the Arava is mideoraisa. Fine. Ihachi lulav nami lidche k'dei shehu min haTorah. So also when it comes to lulav, right? Lulav, of course, on the first day of Sukkot, it says l'kachtam lechem b'yom harishon. So it says, right, the pasuk clearly says that the lulav on the first day of Sukkot is midoraisa, but it says usmachtem lifnei Hashem l'kechem shivas yom. So we learn out from there that also it applies to all 7 days, but it doesn't say explicitly take the lulav for 7 days, right? So maybe also when it comes to lulav, we should say that it should be doche Shabbos in order to make it clear that that also the fact that we take the lulav for 7 days in the Beis Hamikdash, that's also midoraisa. So lulav gezer mishum derabah. The Gemara says, well, yes, but Gzera Derabah, as we learned about at the beginning of the daf, they were concerned that you might end up taking the lulav to go to an expert to learn how to shake it, and then you might end up carrying Daled Amos b'Shus Harabim. So therefore, Einochinami, yes, the lulav is midoraisa all 7 days, and it would be very nice to publicize that it's midoraisa, but Gzera Derabah, fine. So Yachi Arava Nami Nigzor. So why don't we say the same thing by Arava? Gezerah derabah. That, it's midoraisa in the Beis HaMikdash for 7 days, but not outside the Beis HaMikdash. And we should want to make it clear that it's midoraisa. And it should be doche, so we want to say it's doche Shabbos, but shouldn't we be concerned by Arava also about Gezerah derabah? So Arava shluchei bezdin ma'isila lulav kol maser. So we say, yeah, but there's a big nafkamina. There's a big difference, which is that by the arave, who's bringing the arave? Who's taking care of the arave? The shluchei bezdin. The shluchei bezdin are very careful. So therefore, we don't have to be concerned about the gzera derabah. Whereas lulav is given over to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. So therefore, they might end up going to an expert to learn how to shake the lulav. So we need the Gezerah Derabah. The Gezerah Derabah is not relevant when it comes to Arave. Well, if that's the case, that it's the Shluchei Bezdin who are dealing with the Arave, and we could, we don't have to worry about the Gezerah Derabah, so then let them take the Arave 7 days of Sukkot, no matter when Shabbos falls out, if it's the 7th day of Sukkot or not. No matter what day of Sukkot Shabbos falls out, you should be able to do the Arave, because it's the Shluchei Bezdin, after all, who are dealing with Aravis, and you don't have to be concerned about the Gzera Derabah. The Gemara says, Einachinami, but also l'fakpuke belulav. But then we'll be mazalz lulav, right? We'll look down upon lulav if Arave is always 7 days, it's docha Shabbos, and lulav, is only 7 days if it falls out on if the first day of Yom Tov is Shabbos, but any other day that Shabbos, if the first day of Yom Tov falls out on any other day, which means that Shabbos is in the middle of Chol HaMoed, and we're going to be taking Arave, but we're not going to be taking lulav, people are going to say that lulav isn't as important as Arave. V'lidchei b'Yom Tov Rishon. So now, Frek the Gemara, okay, fine, but what's the deal with day 7? It seems kind of random. Why don't we say that the Arave is Docha Shabbos when the first day of Sukkot is Shabbos? Why are we saying when the 7th day of Sukkot is Shabbos? Lo muchacha milsa. So we say, well, but if that's the case, then it won't be clear that the reason why you're taking the Arave is because Arave is midoraisa and it's Docha Shabbos. Amrei, they're going to say, lulav hu dekadachi. So they're going to say, the reason why you're taking the Arave is because really lulav is Docha Shabbos, and once lulav is Docha Shabbos, so then the Arave can kind of come along, but we're not going to be giving Arave its own space. So therefore we say, if when the 7th day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, that's kind of when Arave has its time to shine. And then it's clear that Arave is, it's being Doch Shabbos because of Arave, and Arave is Midoraisa. And the Gemara says, okay, but what's special about the 7th day? Why don't we say, if the 4th day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so then Arave is Doch Shabbos. What's the deal with 7? So the Gemara says, well, once already you're not using the first day of Sukkot, so then use the last day of Sukkot. Don't use a random day in the middle. So if the last day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so then Arave is Docha Shabbos. Well, if that's the case, they want to make sure that, to make it clear that Arave is Docha Shabbos in the Beis HaMikdash. So then even nowadays, Zeicher Lemikdash, we should say that the Arava is Docha Shabbos, because after all, what's the big deal? It's just like, you're not like taking it anywhere. It's just going to be dealing with it in the synagogue or whatever it is. So let it be Docha, let us take the Arava on Shabbos now, nowadays as well. So Anan Lo Yadinon Bikivua Diyarcha. So we say, well, we don't know exactly, we don't have a fixed calendar. We don't know what's what. And therefore, or at least, nowadays we technically have a fixed calendar, but okay, they said, look, we don't know, right? We have Yom Tov Sheni Shagalius, we have Sveikat Yomer, we're not exactly sure, technically speaking, which day is really day 7 or not. And therefore, when day 7 falls out on Shabbos, we don't technically know that it's really day 7, so therefore we don't do the Arav nowadays. Inu de Yade B'Kivur de Yarcha Lidche, B'Fekti Gemara, but in Eretz Yisrael, where they still determined the Rosh Chodesh, not anymore, but they still at that time, I guess they were still determined the Rosh Chodesh based on seeing the moon. So they should know exactly when day 7 of Sukkot is. So if that's the case, then in Eretz Yisrael, they should be able to take the Arava when the 7th day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos. So ki also Bar Hedja, when Bar Hedja came, does the name Bar Hedja ring a bell? Bar Hedja was that dream interpreter Nudnik from the 9th parak, the last parak of Brachos, who you'd pay. If you paid him, he told you a good interpretation. If you didn't, so he gave you a bad interpretation. I don't know if it's the same Bar Hedja. Amrlo Ikla Lo Ikla. So he says, it doesn't. The calendar will never work out that way. We'll make sure that the calendar will never work out that way. We'll make sure that the 7th day of Sukkot will never fall out on Shabbos. Okay. Ki also Ravin v'chonachusei, when Ravin and everybody else who came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel came, Amri, they said Ikla v'lo dachi, that actually the 7th day of Sukkot can fall out on Shabbos, and when it does, Arava is not Docha Shabbos. Okay? Ve'elakasha, but why not? Why shouldn't it be Docha Shabbos? Right, in Eretz Yisrael, if they know exactly when, right, that the 7th day is really the 7th day, so then it should be Docha Shabbos, Zeicher Lemikdash. So, Omer Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef, Man Lema Lo and Arav B'Netila. Well, it depends what exactly you're doing with the Arava. Sure, if all you're doing is like taking the Arava and like walking around with it, so then yeah, I guess I don't see why, maybe, sure, it should be okay that if you know exactly that today is the 7th day of Sukkot, so then you should be able to take the Arava, even nowadays, Zeicher Lemikdash. If all you have to do is take the Arava. But, Dilma B'Zekifa, maybe in the Beis HaMikdash, what they would do with the Arava is they would davka take the Arava and stand it around the Mizbeach. And we don't have a Mizbeach, in which case there's really nothing for us to do with the Aravas nowadays, Zeicher Lemikdash. Says Abai, Lulav Arava, Shisha V'Shiva. So Abai says, what do you mean, Rav Yosef? What do you mean that the Arava was just that they would like stand it up by the Mizbeach? What do you mean? The Mishnah says that, our Mishnah says, that Lulav and Arava Shisha V'Shiva. Sometimes it's 6 days and sometimes it's 7 days. My love, Ki Lulav. Must be that we're comparing Lulav and Arava. That Arava is like Lulav. Lulav B'Netilaf, Arava B'Netila. Just like, what do you do with the Lulav? You hold the Lulav. So it must be that the Arava also, they would hold the Lulav. We're talking, the Arava, that they would hold the Arava. And therefore nowadays, we should be able to hold the Arava. If we know that the 7th day of Sukkot is Shabbos, so we should be able to hold the Arava. So, midday area. So, Rav Yosef responds and he says, why are you assuming that Lulav and Arava are the same? Hakadise v'akadise. The Lulav you take and you hold, the Arava you stand up by the Mizbeach. Eis ve'Abai has a kasha of Yosef, v'chol yom makifin es ha-Mizbeach pam achas, v'oso yom sheva paimim. The Mishnah says that every day they would surround the Mizbeach 1 time, and on the 7th day they would surround the Mizbeach 7 times. My lab ba'arava. And Abai says, Mistama is talking about the Arava, that they would surround the Mizbeach with the Arava 7 times. So we see that Arava is about taking it, not about just standing it up. Lo, belulav. No, they would walk around the Mizbeach with the lulav. But the Arava, they would just stand up. V'ha'omer Rav Nachman and Rabbi Bar Avua, but didn't Rav Nachman say in the name of Rabbi Bar Avua that by Arava, that it's talking about that they would surround the mizbeach with the arava. So Amar lei, hu Amar lach ba'arava v'anamina belulav. So Rav Yosef says to Abaye, says, look, yeah, sure. Rav Nachman is saying that it's with the arava, that they would surround the mizbeach with the arava, but I'm saying that they would surround the mizbeach with the lulav. Okay. But the arava, they would just stand up. Itmar was stated Rabbi Lazar, Omer says Rabbi Lazar belulav, that they would surround the mizbeach with the lulav. Okay. Rav Shmuel bar Noson, Omer Rav Chanina ba'arava. Okay. Says Rav Shmuel bar Noson, the name of Rav Chanina, that they would surround the mizbeach with the arava. Okay. V'chein Rav Nachman, Omer Rav bar Avua, and similarly says Rav Nachman, the name of Rav bar Avua ba'arava. Okay, that they would surround the mizbeach with the arava. Omelei Rava, the Rav Yitzchak bar the Rabba bar Bachana, says Rava to Rav Yitzchak bar the Rabba bar Bachana, bar Uriah, Torah scholar. Tave emelach milsa ma'al yisa, come and I'll tell you something gevaldig dahava Omer avuch that your father said. Haditznan kol ayom akifinas ha-mizbeach, and he said that when the Mishnah says that they would surround the mizbeach every day, Pam achas one time, but also ayom akifinas ha-mizbeach sheva paimim, and that day they would surround the mizbeach 7 times. Hachi Omer avuch mishmei de Rabbi Lazar. This is what your father Rabbi bar Bachana said. The name of Rabbi Lazar belulav, that it was taka with the lulav, like Rav Yosef was saying, and therefore Rav Yosef wants to argue that they would surround the mizbeach with the lulav, but the arava they would just stand up, and because nowadays we don't have the mizbeach, so there's really nothing to do on the 7th day of Sukkot in terms of the arava. That was daf mem gimel of. We'll stop here. That was daf mem gimel of Masechta Sukkah. So what did we talk about? So there was some interesting stuff that we talked about today, right? So we said in the Mishnah that if the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so then they would take the lulav in the Beis Hamikdash. But if the first day of Sukkot fell out on any other day, so then come Shabbos they would not take the lulav. And the question is why? And Rabbah tells us it's because we're concerned that you might end up taking it to somebody to learn how to do. And therefore, right, to learn how to shake the lulav, and therefore we don't want you taking the lulav on Shabbos because you might take it for Amos Rosh Hashanah. Now, the question is, but then why is it okay on the first day? So we say it's okay on the first day because the first day is mida oraisa to take the lulav both in the Beis Hamikdash and outside the Beis Hamikdash. So we say, okay, in the Beis Hamikdash you could take the, and we even ultimately said that even after the time of the Beis Hamikdash, we would still take the lulav on the first day of Sukkot if it falls out on Shabbos. I don't think that we do that anymore, maybe because of the Sveika Diyoma. But because on the first day, the mitzvah of lulav is midoraisa both in the Beis Hamikdash and outside the Beis Hamikdash, so then we say that you take the lulav even on Shabbos. But any of the other days where it's only mitzvah in the Beis Hamikdash, so we're concerned about the gzera. We make the gzera of Rabbah that we're concerned that you might end up carrying Daled Amos in Rishus HaRabim. We then talked about Arava as well. We said that Arava, Dafka, when the 7th day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, so then you take the Arava in order to indicate that the Arava is also Mida Oraisa. The reason why we don't do it on the first day is because then you might think that you're only taking really the important thing is the lulav, and once you're taking the lulav, so you can also take the arava, but the arava maybe is not midoraisa, so therefore we give it its own special day in Dafka the 7th, because if it's not the first, then the 7th kind of makes sense. Okay, fine, that's that. Okay, and then we said maybe why don't we do it nowadays, and that's kind of where we're in the middle of right now. Rav Yosef wanted to answer that the reason why we don't do it nowadays is because, technically what they did with the arava was they would just stand it up by the mizbeach. We don't have a mizbeach, so therefore there's nothing to do with the arava nowadays on Shabbos. But okay, fine. The other opinion is that if what you did with the lulav was that you would walk around the mizbeach with it, so you could still do that nowadays, and we're kind of still in the middle of that discussion. We'll pick it up from here tomorrow. Have a great day. Peace.